I guess we can just talk about, why are you making the argument that he is racist?
Everything that he's presented suggests to me that he's racist. But it might be the case that he's not. I'm not really concerned with if he's actually racist. I'm concerned with how he's teaching it to his students.
This video is a direct response to Michael Moreno, who recently posted a video about his professor Ryan Walsh stating that he is an anti-white racist. Now, before I get any further, I'd like to clarify a few things. I am a former debater. My name is Tommy. I did 2 years of high school debate from 2014 to 2016. And 2 years of college debate from 2016 to 2018. It was during my final year of debate in August of 2018. Now, when Ryan joined the Weber State team, he was not director, he was just a coach, so he only held arguments, and we were under a different director at that time. So he had no jurisdiction about how the program was run. He didn't have anything to do with how money was spent or the curriculum, etc., etc. Now, let me tell you 3 things about me that are relevant to this video. 1, I know that space is real. I'm an aerospace engineer major. I've been dreaming about going to space since I was in the 6th grade. I'm currently working on several NASA scholar programs. So this brings me to the second thing about me, which is that I know that science is not racist. And so given these 2 points about me, it's also important to know that 3, I do not support sending an entire race of people to outer space to colonialize other planets. I assure you that if I knew anybody who wanted to get rid of an entire race of people, I would not associate myself with them. And so why am I, a strong supporter of science and space technology and person who is very clearly against racism, defending Ryan Walsh, the racist, anti-white, science skeptic professor? It's an answer you won't really expect or understand, but it's because Ryan is also a supporter of science and is nowhere near the racist that you would think he is based on Michael's video. All of the audio is cut and taken out of context. He does not hate white people. He does not have a biased racial agenda that he is supposedly forcing down the throats of the debaters. He's in actuality a debate coach who does not believe the arguments he makes, but simply makes them purely for argumentation's sake. He also allows all arguments, so long as they are strongly persuasive and well prepared. What's really going on is that Michael made his video because Ryan didn't let him debate, and so he's lashing out. But it's important to understand the specifics of why he wasn't allowed to debate, and that it had nothing to do with his race. It wasn't because Michael didn't want to run the racial arguments that Ryan supposedly only allows his debaters to run. It was because Michael was making a space policy that just was not persuasive enough. And so as a coach, Ryan took the obligation of not allowing a non-persuasive argument into a debate tournament because he knew that he would lose. That would be a waste of the university's money and a waste of his time. This is the same concept as benching a player on the court or on the field who's just not playing well. You want players who are going to get you points, get you the W, get you the win. Forgive me if I look different or if my background looks different in some of these clips, because I'm recording this over the course of a couple days. I have a lot of things to do, but I'm trying to set aside time to do this whenever I can. But moving on. Now, these are a lot of substantial claims I'm making here, but I'm going to be providing evidence and explanation for every single one as to why they are true, in order to prove that Ryan Walsh indeed is not a racist and that Michael Moreno is in reality the boy who cried wolf. So the constant thing you're going to be hearing me talk about throughout this video is context. Why does it matter? Because if you don't have context, you could be mad about the wrong things for the wrong reasons. So as you can see from the beginning of this video, we do have a direct quote of Michael saying that he's not necessarily concerned if Ryan Walsh is actually racist, but that he is more concerned with that the content he is teaching is racist. So we are going to be applying that throughout the video and going into just the specific details about why his teachings aren't necessarily racist, because he isn't approving of them. He is presenting them, and he entirely welcomes proving these statements wrong. So we need to understand what's going on here in terms of how college debate works. In any debate event throughout America, that is in different events such as Public Forum, Lincoln Douglas, Policy Debate, Parley Debates, all debaters are expected and required to flip on both sides of a topic. That is, for example, if the topic is about gun control, debaters will have to argue for and against gun control. So given this setting, debaters, even if they don't agree with the side that they are on, they will have to learn how to win that side. What this causes is, even if you're arguing for a position that you don't necessarily believe in, it causes you to gain an understanding of how those positions are defended in the first place. And then you kind of learn how to beat those arguments when you flip on the other side and you're opposing them. It is very important to understand this fact about being a debater if you are going to form an opinion about Michael Moreno or Ryan Wash. Michael doesn't explain this fact because it would be disadvantageous to him. What I'm going to be arguing next is that all of the audio clips, and I mean all of them, are taken out of context and are predicated on the fact that Michael doesn't realize that Ryan doesn't necessarily believe in all the arguments he's talking about, because he has quite literally taught the opposite side of these arguments. Because college debate is a competitive event, debaters will not necessarily talk about arguments that they believe in. Rather, they will go for arguments that will garner them a W. What's the most successful, what gets them the most ballots in a tournament. So, for example, in one round, if a debater is on the negative, they could say that capitalism is the root cause of all the affirmative problems, and because the affirmative doesn't do anything about this, they lose because they never get to the root cause of their problems. Whereas in the next round, that same debater could now be on the affirmative and ends up being in a position where they end up having to defend capitalism, saying that capitalism is an effective economic system which saves billions of lives. In this context, what has happened here from Michael's video is that Michael has taken instances of Ryan talking about one side of an argument and makes it seem as that's his only side, and completely negates and ignores the fact that Ryan will talk about and teach the opposite side of that argument. So this brings us to the first major point that Michael makes about Ryan, which is that he has an agenda where he only approves of arguments he agrees with, and they have to be racially motivated. This point is entirely false and not true at all. Right now, everyone thinks that Ryan is a black terrorist. He's racially motivated. He is a anti-white hotep, which if you've only seen Michael's videos and have never participated in academic debate, yeah, sure, it makes perfect sense why you would believe that. I mean, he goes out of his way to make a pretty compelling video, but it's taken out of context, and so therefore the ethics behind his video is quite bad and puts a completely innocent professor in a bad light. The reason this assumption is wrong is due to the fact that Ryan coached two white debaters who made the argument that whiteness isn't real, it doesn't exist, and it's all made up in your head. Ryan coached a team to make that argument. So one of these two white debaters is named Zach Baker. Baker did an interview with a YouTube channel named Benjamin A. Boyce. So let's go ahead and play a clip from that interview.
Ryan Wash has never done anything, in my experience with him, that would indicate any sort of racism. As a student for him who was white, that I never felt demeaned because of that. And in fact, Ryan did everything in his power to increase the education I was getting from debate and the opportunities that I had. And not just because I was running SJW arguments. In fact, a lot of the arguments I chose to go for in debate were very much against kind of the progressive liberal position. Ironically, like the clearest example that Michael gives in his video of an argument that Ryan would not have allowed him to run, the idea that whiteness and white privilege is fake and made up, is an argument that I went for multiple times under his supervision. The argument we'd make is that whiteness as a social structure isn't material, it's in your head, you made it up. And by bringing all of that baggage into debate, you're just reperforming your own oppression. It only has power if you give it power. We made the argument a lot, and Ryan helped us become the best advocates for that position. So he certainly does not let his personal attachments to particular ideas get in the way. He would help us read arguments which are arguably the exact opposite of that.
Now, a common response I have seen against Baker's video is that we can't trust his personal account, and that because Michael has evidence, we have to default to his, which would be perfectly fine if we didn't have evidence, but we do. This is Weber State University's Department of Communication, Faculty and Staff website. If we go scroll down here to Ryan Wash and click on his name, and we will see that during 2018-2019, he became Director of Forensics at Weber State University. So let's remember that year, 2018-2019, right? Now we're going to go to this website. It's called Open Case List. It's essentially a Wikipedia for college debate. Debaters will post their current arguments or previous arguments they have ran in order for other teams to look at, research, and prepare against them so that when they run into each other, there will be more productive, more prepared debates. Right, so since we're talking 2018-2019, let's look at Archive Case List and click on 2018-2019. Now, during this year, we're going to click on Weber State. Then we're going to look at this team here, Weber, Baker, and Thied. Let's look at their negative arguments. Looks like the negative arguments they ran most of the time was Baudrillard and topicality. Topicality is an argument saying that because you're not talking about the topic, you should lose. Simple enough, right? And then the other argument is John Baudrillard. I will have our guest explain that argument very soon here. But what we're more concerned about right now is this round right here. Weber tournaments, round 7 versus ASU Wyoming GH. Judge is David Kilpatrick. And let's see the round reports. That's basically the summary of the round, right? So the 1AC, which is the first affirmative constructive, was black queer mothering. Whatever that is. I have no idea what that is, but that's what it was, right? And our friends, Baker and Thied, ran Baudrillard and T against this team. And the first affirmative rebuttal, the 1AR, they told Baker and Thied that they were racist and perpetuate settler colonialism. Wow, kind of sounds like what maybe perhaps Ryan would say to them, right? Well, let's find out. Now we're going to look at the results of that round. We are looking at tabroom.com. Tabroom.com is the hub world for college debate and high school debate. Essentially, colleges and high schools that are hosting debate tournaments will post their tournaments on this website, and other schools will sign up to their tournament on this website. Then, when the schools show up to the tournament, the website will post who's debating who, and then the results of that round. All these websites are public access, by the way. I'm going to be posting links in the description below. Anyway, so we're looking at tabroom.com. We're looking at the Mukai Classic 2018, and we're looking at the Open Division Round 7, right? Because we're talking about Round 7, Weber, right? So let's scroll down. We have Weber BT Round 7 against ASU. David Kilpatrick, yep, it all looks the same. Now let's see who won that round. The negative, our friends, Weber BT. So this here is a forwarded email from Baker's partner during one of his debate rounds during the 2018-2019 school year. This email is a forward you see here from the Northwestern Tournament Round 8, Weber versus Rutgers. I'm going to be censoring all of the debaters' emails for their privacy concerns. But you can see here that the email is post-dated as Sunday, February 3rd, 2019 at 5:07 p.m. And let's get into the body of the email that was sent to their opponents, right? So this is what we call these are cards. Cards are read during debate rounds. Basically, as how they're structured is we have the tagline, which is like the argument that the debater is trying to make through the evidence. Then they read the author's name and year, and then they have the copy pasted body of the text that they pulled it from, and they highlight and bolden the parts that they're reading, kind of to like annotate the evidence. They can do this as long as it makes sense the way they're reading it. So let's go ahead and get into this evidence that is particularly damning to Michael's narrative that Ryan only allows arguments about we need to talk about racism or whatever. This evidence is titled, "The pursuit for a vision of authentic blackness is empirically false and amounts to nothing more than a phantasm sold by corporate cultural industries. Don't fall for the illusion of race." That's by Guadalupe and Ruijin 14. Now let's get into the body of that evidence. It states, capitalism is global mode of production and obliterator of incommensurables, is about producing the real where no real exists, luring customers to think that there are things in life that still have exclusive value, while all along they are part and parcel of exchange and sign value. Baudrillard, 2001. Black music is part of this chimera. The offspring of enslaved Africans behave as though black music belongs to them, a magical music containing an authentic core that could not be commoditized. They have been enticed by the lure of property rights. Ownership is an attractive poison if the great grandchildren of those who refuse to be other people's human chattel want to drink from this poisonous chalice. Then the term revolutionary subject needs to be removed from social science encyclopedias. Property is an essential aspect of the production of the real. We are all conscripts of capital. All our cherished cultural properties and natural social identities are actually relational and intersubjective products. This deconstruction and unveiling of transracial power asymmetries does not change the fact that black music is sold under an exclusively black label. They continue to package these phantoms as being consonant with the older, nationally induced constructs of race and culture. The black authenticity of real blacks only matters if they too accept the phantasmal black being sold as urban. Basically, what I can gather from this evidence here, I just barely read it here. So, what I can understand from it is that it says that basically black music and black identity is a false notion, fails to recognize how the idea of owning identity and like understanding it from that standpoint, i.e., like whiteness and blackness, doesn't recognize a deeper meaning of where that comes from, which this evidence says that it could be capitalism that produces what's real and what's not. Then they read another piece of evidence saying we should not generate identity skills in debate because the university is a place of surveillance and speed elitist complicity as hoofed intent. Basically, this evidence just saying, like, you know how we've seen a bunch of videos of debaters reading really fast that's critiquing that notion and saying that if you want to talk about identity skills, but in an activity that is like that, where they include spreading, it's counterproductive. So, yeah, this is pretty much saying that racism arguments are bogus. And then we have the hoofed evidence, which I talked about already. Right. So let me get one thing straight here. Ryan does not have an agenda. He's not forcing his debaters to talk about race and all these other things. He doesn't require that as part of being the debate team. When he brings up these arguments, he fully supports and wants his debaters to understand the ins and outs of these arguments so that if they wanted to, or actually when they will have to encounter these arguments in their debates, that they can beat it. Michael never asked if he could run those arguments. It's that simple. In the recordings, Michael asks about a stoicism argument. He talks about his space policy affirmative. But the key point to note here is that Michael never went up to Ryan and asked, can I read an argument that proves whiteness theories and anti-blackness theories are wrong? Instead, he just assumes he can't. And so it's ironic he's talking about these theories requiring that they play victim when quite literally he's doing that to himself.